All right, we have so much to cover today, so I do want to be mindful of the time and then make sure that we have space for the breakout room. So welcome. My name is Sarah Dorner, and I am with the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law. And we're so excited. This is our very first event as the Boston area LLM Consortium. So we are thrilled to be working together. This is a collaboration of schools that are located within the Boston area, which is located in New England, the northeast of the US. So we are thrilled to have you with us. We're going to be talking today about how to make your US LLM application stand out. But before we get started, I just want to make sure that each of our presenters has a chance to introduce themselves and let you know where they're from. So we'll turn on the presentation, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Christina, who will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Rice from Boston University School of Law.
Hello, I'm Bridget Sandusky from Suffolk Law School.
Hello, I'm Megan Marr from Northeastern University School of Law.
Hello all, I'm Katie Merrill. I am from Vermont Law School.
And hi again, everyone. I'm Sarah Dorner with the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law. Thanks. So Christina is just getting us set up with the presentation. Thank you. And there you can see all of the presenters today. And I will very quickly just give you a rundown of what we're going to discuss. So I'll get us started by talking a little bit about how to go about searching for LLM programs. From there, we'll go over how to apply to programs, kind of a high-level overview. And then we'll talk in more detail about each of the components of the application, the letters of recommendation and the resume, writing your personal statement, the transcript and evaluation process, and then the requirements for English language proficiency. I will invite you as we go as well to please put your questions in the chat. We will have time at the end to answer your questions. If we see something along the way, we'll do our best to answer it then too. But we'll absolutely get to questions at the end of the presentation. And then what we'll do is we will have breakout rooms so that if there's a school here that you would like to learn a little bit more about their programs, you can go ahead and hop into their rooms. I think what we'll do maybe at the end before we launch the breakout rooms is just give you a chance. We'll each kind of come back on and tell you a little bit about the different LLM programs that we offer so you have a sense of which school might be the best fit for you. Okay, so to get us started on how to go about searching for LLM programs, let me share a little bit about that with you. So first and foremost, I think one of the primary resources that students use is the Law School Admissions Council website. They have a directory of LLM programs, so you can go and you can search there. And in addition, you can sign up for their free candidate referral service. This allows schools you can indicate your interest in a certain school, and then they can be in touch with you to share a little bit more about their programs. The American Bar Association, the ABA, also has a listing of LLM programs, and they will have a listing of the specializations that the different schools offer, and you can also search by a school. So if you know there's a particular school that you want to check out, you can search for that school and see what type of LLM programs that they offer. Some schools have more general LLM programs, and then other schools have specialized LLM programs. Whoops, I think we lost. Give me just one moment while we get back to that slide. And I apologize. We've had a series of tech challenges that we've had to overcome to be here with you today, but we are doing it.
Is that the right one, or is this presenter mode again?
I'm seeing kind of like all the slides, but not the presenter mode.
All right, give me one moment. Sorry about that.
And I'm happy to keep talking through that slide though, as you work to pull it back up. And then we'll make sure that you all see the slide in case you want to snap a picture. LLM Guide is another great resource. Schools will often post a profile about their school and their LLM programs. So you can search on LLM Guide as well. And they'll also, you can search by different specializations. more and more that I'm hearing from students that they're really using LinkedIn as a resource. They're looking for the alumni from different schools to get a better sense of where they are in the world and what type of law they're practicing to see if the school would be a good fit. Education USA is a fantastic resource. They will host some LLM fairs in certain regions of the world. So I know many of us were together traveling in South America. They did an LLM South America tour, also another one in Europe. But in addition to these in-person events, they will also host different virtual events. So definitely look for those, but also connect with an Education USA advising center in your country. They have a website where you can search by your country or your city and see where you can connect with advisor there, and they can work with you to help you identify schools and support you through the application process. Attending virtual events like this is a great way to learn more about different LLM programs and what options you have. And then, of course, I think many people are familiar with the U.S. News and World Report. I share this that about a year ago, a number of law schools in the US decided to suspend their participation in the rankings, but many schools are still participating. So I think it does give you one indicator of a school, but certainly I think that there's so much more than just the rankings, but that is still a resource to consider. And then certainly all of our schools have a website where we will have detailed information about our programs, our faculty, student life, housing, the application process. So I definitely encourage you to spend some time, if there's a school that you're interested in, spend some time on their website. Most schools will have an option where you can complete a short form to request more information and get in touch directly with someone at the school. And we really encourage you to do that. We are here to help. We want to answer your questions. We know the process can be confusing. So we really encourage you to reach out to us to connect, and we can speak with you one-on-one. All right, I'll turn it over to a discussion about the overall applying to LLM programs.
Hi, thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to cover the best way to get started in applying to LLM programs. So now you've done your searching and you have to make the decision during that time period of, is this really the right time? I think that's the first thing that you have to consider. Is it the right time for you to consider applying to an LLM program? And there's going to be lots of factors that come into that. It's a question that I'm often asked when meeting with students that are interested in pursuing an LLM degree. And my answer to them is really, it's whatever is the right time for you. It's a really personal decision, whether or not you come directly after university, having completed most likely your Bachelor of Laws, versus if you had, some years of work experience as an attorney. There's no one size fits everyone. So I think that's really, really important for you to see, is it the right time for you individually? And then you have to get organized. Getting organized and applying to LLM programs might be over a period of upwards to a year, just because you need to get, all of your materials together. You need to, contact recommenders. You need to get your financials all in order. And then lastly, for many of you, if you're an international student, which probably most of you are who are joining us, you'll have to have time to secure your student visa to come and study with any one of us here, or any of the LLM programs in the United States. And you will need to make sure that you have the degree that enables you to go and pursue an LLM. So that would be looking at, LSAC has a great listing of all the various different countries, and most of us will often follow what those basic educational requirements are that would grant you eligibility to come to our LLM programs. We may have, every once in a while, we might have a different decision that we might come come up to as individual law schools, but it's at least a very good starting point. And if you have questions, certainly feel free to outreach to, any LLM person that you've had an opportunity to interact. If you're really interested in a particular school, there's no harm in sending them an email and just confirming, I want to make sure that my degree is making me eligible to pursue an LLM degree because I haven't completed my first state exam. Do I need to do that first? So all of us are happy to answer questions. And then not every law school requires LSAC. Some of us will accept applications directly. I think most of us prefer or require LSAC. So if you are going to be using the LSAC process for one school because they absolutely require it, then it just makes it a lot easier for you to do the same for all the other schools. So next slide, please. So here are the services that LSAC will provide to you. So it makes it it's a streamlined process because you're doing everything just one time, meaning that you're going to be sending your letters of recommendation. Your recommenders are just sending it to LSAC, and they're not sending it to 5 or 6 different law schools. You're writing your resume and you're uploading it and you're just dedicating and saying, I want it to be sent to these law schools. My application is going to be sent. Your transcripts, the same thing. So it really does make it a lot easier for you here for utilizing LSAC's services. You will have some various different fee structures to even utilize the process. You have the application service and the document assembly service. And many of us would be requiring the international transcript authentication. So that's just letting us know, how do we translate what your academic credentials are to a US styled system, and they'll do some verification, making sure that your transcripts are authentic or genuine transcripts from your law school. And then depending on each school that you're applying to, you will be required to do secure sign up for the law school reports, and that will allow you to send it to our individual institutions. And then lastly, there's a law school application fee. So that is a fee that we charge individually from each university, but many of us offer application fee waivers. So please, certainly at Suffolk, and my colleagues can say otherwise, but I would venture to guess that most of us are quite willing to provide application fee waivers. So please don't hesitate to contact or ask us if we can provide you with an application fee waiver for our direct application. Next slide, please. And then here, if you are going through the LSAC process, they do try to make it as easy as possible. But if you're doing it the first time, you could potentially have some challenges or are not and have some questions about what do you have to add into your cart, things like that. So LSAC is terrific in helping you work through that process. You can email them directly, llminfo@lsac.org, or you can give them a call, and this is their contact information. And then once that's all done, we know the hardest part is always waiting for your decisions. But rest assured, we're all working really hard behind the scenes to get your decisions out to you as soon as possible. So I will turn it over to my next colleague.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments, Bridget. I am going to start digging into the components of a LSAC application for LLMs. I'm going to go cover through letters of recommendation and resume. These are 2 pieces of the application. And I appreciated Bridget's comments on getting organized. Your first thing that you want to do is really know what are the components of the application and what do I need to provide each law school. So letters of recommendation, this is one of my favorite parts. This is when I get to hear what other people say about you. So I always, when you're looking at your recommenders, you want to ask, who should I ask? First and foremost, ask someone that really knows you. Ask someone that you know is going to write you a positive letter of recommendation. I would say someone who will vested in your success, who are going to say something positive. I would ask a professor, a TA, someone you've attended office hours, someone you've worked closely with on an academic project. One thing that I wouldn't do is I wouldn't ask like a politician or a judge, someone that might have influence in your home country or in the US, but doesn't necessarily know you personally. I would also then meet with them, schedule a time to meet with them virtually or schedule a coffee and talk to them a little bit about your goals in applying for an LLM. That way you can discuss your prior work. You can discuss a little bit about you personally. You can have your resume there, and they really know what your goals are in applying, what you did for them in their class if it's been a while, and it creates a great positive experience for the recommender and yourself. What should they say? And it's interesting for international students, every country approaches letters of recommendation a little bit differently, which I love. But I really like it when recommenders speak to your academic qualifications, your intellectual ability, your strengths as a student. Did you participate in class? Your research capabilities, your writing skills. I also like when they touch on your personal characteristics, your professionalisms, your maturity, your ability to work with others. I really love in the letter to get to know your academic capabilities and also your personal strengths. And it usually relates to what you've told me in your personal statement. Some of you are asking, wow, it's been a while since I've been in college, university. So I always ask yourself academic versus employer recommendation. If you've been out of your institution for a number of years, it's really okay to have a supervisor, a work colleague write a letter of recommendation for you. But I would shift the letter of recommendation to have more of like academic qualities. Is there a project you worked on as a team? If you're a practicing attorney, is there a case that you guys worked on together that the person can talk about your research writing and your oral skills? Anything along those lines to help us get a better understanding that you can succeed in an LLM program. How many letters of recommendations? This is my favorite. Again, get organized, do your research, and follow instructions. I accept up to 4 letters of recommendation, but some of my colleagues may only accept 1. This is kind of where you strategize. So you might want to have that award-winning academic letter or professional letter. That's your number 1 that's going out the door. And then maybe for me, at Vermont Law, we specialize in environmental LLMs. Maybe for me, you add a letter that shows your work in environmental. So that way it's kind of, I hear your academic side, and then I also have an interest side. So it's really good to strategize, but do follow instructions. Don't submit more than a school asks for. Next, resume. Here's another component. I use the resume as a guideline, or an outline to your life, to how you're going to address your personal statement. Big things in a resume, keep it professional. No pictures. In the US, we tend not to do pictures. So no pictures, no crazy fonts, no color schemes. Just keep it very professional. The law is a professional, traditional career here in the US. So really be mindful of that. Focus on your professional work. Focus on your jobs. Focus on anything that gives light to your experience. Now, if you were in college and let's say you worked at a coffee shop while going full-time in college, I want to see that. So you can also intermingle different things. I would have someone look at it in your home country where they can say, does this look professional for a law school application? I would put your academic accomplishments, any publications on there. I would do community and volunteer. Again, this is also where you know your audience. Since I am big on environmental professional work, I would want to see like volunteer work that's related to the environment. Skills, languages. Now, hobbies, I don't know. I love hobbies, but some of my colleagues, that might not be something that they would want. So get to know your counselor, ask them questions, and get an idea of what they'd like to see. But of course, if someone loves to hike, since I live in the middle of the mountains, that's always a good thing for me. But I am going to pass it on. Thank you for your time. Oh, and proofread everything. I think we'll talk about that in this next slide.
We will indeed. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about writing your personal statement. So a few tips for writing the best possible personal statement. The first tip is to please write it yourself. I know in this world we can go into ChatGPT or other AI models and say, write me a personal statement to apply to Boston University's LLM program and actually get something that's pretty good. But don't do that. Don't, for one, because you're going to, the AI isn't going to say something that's personal about you. It's going to come up with what it thinks is a good statement. I know some places you can also, hire a professional consultant to help you with writing your personal statement. From our perspective as admissions representatives, I really don't think doing that is going to help you. For one, we do one-on-one interviews with every applicant that we're thinking of admitting, and we can actually tell when someone's voice in their personal statement doesn't really match the voice that we're seeing on the interview. And when we can tell that you didn't write your personal statement yourself, that instantly makes that personal statement much less valuable. But the main reason to write it yourself is that you are the best person to know about yourself and why you want to do this program or why you want to go to this school, and to communicate that to us in your own words. And I will say, it's important to proofread. You want to showcase your, ability to write fluently in English and, use grammar. That said, we understand that English is not your first language for many students, and we really don't expect absolute perfection here. We know there's going to be a few times where you don't get the grammar quite right, but that's okay. So what should you say in your personal statement? So I would say, number one, explain, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to pursue an LLM? Maybe you even want to be specific about why you want to pursue an LLM at a particular school. I will also say, if you do write personal statements specific to each school, just be really careful when you're attaching those statements to your application to attach the right one. Every year I get a handful of people who've written wonderful things about why they want to go to a school other than Boston University. And that just tells me that they attached the wrong personal statement. That's not necessarily, a reason for us not to admit you, but it does show that maybe you need to pay a little more attention to detail and be a little more careful. So if you do write school-specific personal statements, just, take that extra minute to make sure you're attaching the right one to the right school. The other thing is to, if you're applying to a specific program, such as the environmental LLM at Vermont or the tax program here at BU, talk a little bit about why you want to specialize in that particular subject area. This is not as necessary if you're applying to a general LLM, where maybe you want to explore a variety of different topics. But for a specialized program, do talk about why you want to do that specific topic. If I get an application for our tax program and the person doesn't say a single word about tax anywhere in their personal statement, my first question is, did they apply to the right program? Are they trying to apply to our tax program, or did they mean to apply to our general American law program? So if you do really want to do a specific type of legal program, talk about that in your personal statement and talk about why. The other great use of a personal statement is to share a personal story about yourself. So you can highlight specific skills that you have that are relevant to the area of law that you want to pursue. You can talk about some challenges that you've overcome, which may showcase, maybe you had a rough year in your undergraduate program where your grades weren't as good. But that's because something, really crisis-like happened in your life during that time. And so that's an opportunity to talk a little bit about why maybe one year of grades weren't as strong as the other years, or as you were growing up, if there was some big challenge that you had to overcome to even get to this point in your life where you want to apply to an LLM program. The personal statement is a great way to share that with us. And, to give more context to anything on your application, such as, a rough time in grades, or if there's something that has really motivated you to want to come and study law school, it's law in the United States, or study in a particular area, this is your chance to talk about that motivation and tell us why this is something you really want to do. The other thing I will say is please do not use your personal statement to simply restate the information that is already on your resume. Every year I see some personal statements that talk about, I went to this school and I did well at this school and I had this internship at this employer. And all of that information in the personal statement is something that I already know about you from looking at your resume. So your personal statement is a chance to add something to your application that is not already shown elsewhere. So don't just talk about what's in your resume or talk about the things that we can already see from your application materials. Use this as an opportunity to really add some character, add some personal touch to tell us a little bit more about who you are beyond the basic facts that we can see in your application. And with that, I will turn it over. The other thing is, please do not go more than 2 pages. Every year I get, a 10-page personal statement from somebody. That's a little too long. 2 to 3 pages is perfect. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague.
Thank you. So I'm going to first talk about official transcripts and evaluation process, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about English language proficiency requirements. And next slide, please. Thank you. And I'm going to preface both of these topics by saying that these specific requirements, transcripts, and English language proficiency are going to vary by law school and LLM program. So you want to make sure that you are familiar with and understand the specific requirements of the programs that you're applying to and that you're submitting the documentation that they are requesting. So first, what transcripts would you need to submit? In general, LLM programs require applicants to submit transcripts from all university-level coursework, that's both undergraduate and graduate, from each institution that you've attended, even if you haven't earned a degree from an institution. The transcripts should include all courses that you've taken, as well as the mark or grade that you earned in that course. And then if you earned a degree from an institution, you would also need to include a diploma or certificate of degree completion. If your transcripts were not issued in English, you would also want to make sure that an official translation was sent with the transcript. And some programs do require that those translations be certified. So you just want to double check on what type of translation the program requires. So how should you submit your transcripts? This is going to, again, vary by program, and it's also going to depend on whether or not you are applying to LSAC or directly to the law school. If you are applying through LSAC, they have a very specific process for submitting academic records and transcripts. And applicants would need to request that official transcripts be sent directly from the institution to LSAC. and that they are mailed in a sealed and stamped envelope. LSAC will not accept transcripts that were issued to the student or sent by the student. If you're applying directly to an LLM program, some programs will allow you to submit unofficial transcripts for the purpose of evaluating your application for admission. And then if you're admitted, you would need to submit official documentation transcripts prior to matriculation. So what's the difference between an official and unofficial transcript? Generally, an unofficial transcript is a copy or something that's received directly from the student. It is not in a sealed or stamped envelope. An official transcript is one that is sent directly from the originating institution and typically includes the university seal and signature of the registrar or similar authority. So how do I have my transcripts evaluated? So not all LLM programs require credential evaluations of your first professional law degree with your application, but many do. So if the program you're applying to requires or encourages a credential evaluation, there are a few different options you can choose from. You could use an outside independent credential evaluation service, such as World Education Services, WES, or Educational Credential Evaluators, ECE. You would arrange to have your academic records sent to the credential evaluation service, and they would then authenticate your documents and evaluate your coursework for usually degree equivalency and US GPA. If you are applying through LSAC, they offer applicants the International Transcript Authentication and Evaluation Service, which my colleague Bridget talked about earlier in the presentation. But basically, LSAC will authenticate and evaluate your transcripts, and then include that evaluation in the CAS reports that are sent to each of the law schools that you are applying to. LSAC will not accept evaluations from outside services such as WES or ECE. You would need to use LSAC's transcript authentication and evaluation service. Now, next slide, please. So English language proficiency requirements. Proof of English language proficiency is an important component of your LLM application, and just like transcripts, it's going to likely vary by program. So in general, though, if English is not your first language, or if your first law degree was not conducted in English, the language of instruction was not English, you will be required to submit an English proficiency test score. TOEFL and IELTS are the most, I'd say, commonly accepted standardized tests for LLM programs, but some may also accept Pearson PTE and Duolingo. Now, each program is going to have a minimum required score, and that's basically the minimum score that you would need to achieve in order to be considered for admission. It is not a, I suppose, guarantee of admission that you've received that particular score, and usually admitted students have received higher than the minimum score. So keep that in mind. And also some programs may require minimum band score. So for each component of the test, such as speaking, listening, reading, you would not only need to achieve the minimum overall score, but each band area tested would have the minimum score as well. You also want to check whether or not your program has a time frame in which the test needs to be taken. So for example, they may not accept an English proficiency test that was taken 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It needs to be taken within a certain period of time of application. Now, how can I request a waiver for proof of English language proficiency? So most LLM programs generally do not require an English proficiency test score if your first law degree's language of instruction was English. That again is going to vary by program and law school. Some, you would need to have both language of instruction be English and the official language of the country be English in order to be waived of the English language proficiency requirement. Some programs will also consider a waiver request on a case-by-case basis based on, depending on an applicant's personal experience using English. If you think you might be eligible for an English language proficiency waiver and want to see if that might be an option for you, just double check with each program. Most have their specific process on how to go about requesting a waiver if they do accept waivers. So you just want to be mindful of that particular requirement around submitting a waiver request. So thank you.
Thanks, Megan. That concludes the formal part of the presentation. I think we've been answering questions in the chat as we go. So I invite people now, if you want to ask anything more, please do put that in the chat. And while you do that and think of your questions, what we'll do before we move into the breakout rooms is just give each school 30 seconds to just share a little bit about the LLM programs that they offer so that you'll know which breakout room could be a good fit for you. So Christina at BU, Boston University, do you want to start?
Sure, thanks, Sarah. So here at Boston University, we offer several LLM programs. We have a general LLM program, that's our American law program. That's typically the best fit if you're looking to sit for a state bar exam or you want a lot of flexibility in your degree. We also have several specific LLM programs on specific topics. We have a tax program. We have a banking and financial law program. We have a intellectual property and data privacy program. And then we also have a 2-year LLM. So if you are someone whose English language skills may not meet our minimum test requirements for the 1-year programs, or you just want to have an extended experience studying for 2 years, we have a 2-year LLM program, and you can specialize in any of our specialty areas in that program as well.
Bridget, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Hi. So at Suffolk Law School, we offer a general LLM program as well, which Christina indicated. Most students that are pursuing that are looking or are hoping to gain eligibility to take a bar exam in the United States. And then we offer a specialized LLM in global law and technology. And that one's pretty unique because it allows you to earn separate specialization designations in intellectual property and information technology law, international law and business, U.S. law and legal methods, and biotechnology and health law. And then we offer a Master's of Science in Law, Life Sciences. So that is open to individuals that are have a law background. And if they don't have a law background, what makes that degree unique is that it's interdisciplinary, combining law, business, and science. And it is a STEM designated degree, so you can get additional extra time. And then lastly, if this is important to you, some students want to complete their LLM at the same place, same institution, where they're hoping to complete a Doctor of Juridical Science. And we do offer an SJD program at Suffolk Law School as well.
Thanks, Bridget. Megan, you're next.
Thanks, Sarah. So at Northeastern Law, we offer on-ground LLM with concentrations in intellectual property and innovation, human rights and economic development, international business law, and health policy and law. And then we also offer general curriculum, which, as Bridget and Christina mentioned, with their general programs, students looking to qualify for a U.S. bar exam typically choose the general curriculum. And then at Northeastern, our on-ground LLM students also have the option of spending 1 semester completing what we call co-op. And that is a full-time legal practice work experience where you'd be working full-time in a legal setting as part of the LLM program requirement. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. And so at the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law, we have 3 specialized LLM programs. Our main focus is intellectual property, and that program is offered in person and online. We also have an LLM in commerce and technology law, and then an only online LLM in international criminal law and justice. All of these programs do have a master's level as well for students who don't have a law background, but those with a law background would do the LLM. Our in-person LLM programs do provide a pathway to bar exam eligibility, and we do have support services here in place to support students who are interested in pursuing that pathway. I will just put in a plug for our career services office is absolutely phenomenal and works really closely with our LLM students to support them in their goals, whether that is staying in the US for optional practical training or returning to their country and either advancing at where they're currently employed or finding new employment. They will work with you. And I will also just say that the state of New Hampshire, where we're located, is about 1 hour from Boston, and it's absolutely beautiful here. We have a lovely little community in the state capital, and then access to nature. So it's a wonderful place to be. And I'll turn it over to Katie.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Katie Merrill again from Vermont Law School. We are nestled in the Green Mountains. I feel like I'm the backyard of Boston. So you have city life and then I'm country life. We are one of the top law schools in the country for environmental law, and our LLMs are focused in environmental law. So we have a broad environmental law LLM. We offer over 70 courses in environmental law and policy, and then you can go deep if you want and have an LLM in energy law, food and agriculture. We just launched an animal protection law LLM. So there's a lot to do, and if you want to save the world and reduce climate change and bring that back to your home countries, that would be terrific. And there's a bus from our school to Boston. So that's a big thing. It's about 2.5 hours away. We do an American Legal Studies too. That's our general LLM. And it's 1 year, and then you can sit for New York, DC, California, or Ohio bars if you do that program. But most of our LLMs come for the environmental law. I think that is it. I know we have some questions.
I noticed, Katie, that there was one more question in the chat that I don't think we've addressed. So someone's asking about, whoops, it just disappeared from my view when we went back, about recommendations for scholarship essays. I'm not entirely certain what that question is asking. If it's about scholarships in general, again, many schools do have some partial tuition scholarships available. I would encourage you to speak directly with them about what options they have and how you apply for them. Some schools have it built into the application process, where it could be automatic consideration, or it could be that you need to indicate your interest. Other schools might have a separate application process for scholarship consideration.
I think they're asking about, I know some schools require a separate essay to apply for certain scholarships. Not all schools do that. So I would just, we don't require any extra essays for our scholarships. So I would say, check with the individual schools you're applying to just see what the requirements are, because not everyone is going to require a scholarship essay.
Excellent.
I do want to make one comment. When you're applying for scholarships, it's really important to look how each school asks for information on that and really gear your essay towards what they're looking for. Because I know when you're coming abroad, finances are really a serious consideration. But like, for example, if I have an international scholarship, but it's really geared in environment. And I really look for students that's what their main focus is. So really try to understand the school, understand what their needs are and what they're looking for in that scholarship, so you're competitive.
Excellent. So what we'll do with our remaining time is I'll open up the breakout rooms. Each of our school has a room, so that we will each be in there. You should be able to move in and out. So we definitely encourage you to come to more than one room if there's more than one school that you think could be a good fit for you. and we will be happy to answer your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open those rooms, and just thank you all again for joining us today.